I just started the recording while I'm cleaning out my desktop. If you want to throw in shit for bloopers, here's bloopers. And it's just like, the fuck is the Weimar Republic? Just sitting here. Look at the wine in the back. That's all stuff I can't drink. I'm just an uninformed shit. I'm, I guess, the editor-in-chief of Late to the Game. And I wanted to try something different. So I've prepared a piece that should go up at the same time as this video, hopefully. And this is kind of inspiration from Trevor Starkey, I guess, from Trevor Trove. You might know him from the Kind of Funny community if you don't know him specifically for Trevor Trove. He started, I don't know if he still does, but he started Trovids, where he wrote his pieces and then he spoke the words of the piece in a video. And friends have suggested that I have more of a video presence, because if I want to be a games journal, I guess part of it is writing and part of it is video, which is fine. I'm fine on video. I'm not shaved. My hair is all over the place. My glasses are not on my face. This is how I usually look, but the reflection is bad, so that's why I'm wearing it up here. Persona 4 is my persona. It was my first, and it may always be my favorite. So with the days between April 4 and now dropping like flies, and with the death of my social life on the horizon, I figured now would be a great time to revisit it and talk. Now, I need to introduce you to the best game ever, which is kind of a really hard task. Persona 4 is the 5th, don't even get me started, entry in the Shin Megami Tensei spin-off series Persona. The series typically, always, deals with teenagers in and around Japan. They become friends, maybe become more. They go to school, they go to work, etc. And they fight demons that are manifestations of their deepest, darkest feelings in order to fade out their personas and become their truer selves. Let me introduce you to my favorite cast of characters ever. From the picture that I'm looking at right now, going from left to right, we have Naoto Shirogane, Kanji Tatsumi, Yosuke Hanamura, Chie Sarunaka, Ryotaro Dojima, Nanako Dojima, Yukiko Amagi, Yu, Teddy, and Bae forever, because I fucking love her, Risei Fujikawa. This group of people, who are fictional, taught me the most about acceptance, the shit you should do for your friends, and appreciating the little things in life. All of this while trying to solve murders happening around town. And your teenagers. Persona 4 perfectly encapsulates the fear and beauty of being a teenager. Something I will so desperately miss. As I've already mentioned, Persona is a game about teenagers. If you're reading this, chances are you are or were one. If you haven't been one or aren't one, leave? Chances are I use words that should not be in your vernacular. Okay, now that the children are away, hopefully, let's get to real talk. Teenagers face a lot of issues that are endemic to them. It's a unique time in any person's life. The pressures of school are weighing on your mind and your body. You've probably developed an interest in dating people. And then of course you're a teen, so there's the pressure of discovering who you really are and what you want to do with your life. Even though I have no idea who thought that was a great time to try and figure it out. Here's the analogy that I proposed in the piece. You're basically a turkey. You get all prepped and stuffed in a hot, uncomfortable place for an extended period of time, and you're expected to come out beautiful and perfect. So of course, when Persona 4 comes along and tries to tackle these things, I had all the feels. Sorry for using feels. A lot of being a teenager has to do with acceptance, and Persona has that in spades. Kanji's whole arc has to do with him struggling with his sexuality, which is kind of annoyingly left unanswered. But I respect and appreciate it nonetheless, because I can understand that gay people frequently question and second-guess their feelings, especially at a time and in a culture that still wasn't and isn't entirely open to the notion of you being a boy who likes boys, or a girl who likes girls. According to my top secret source in Japan, gay portrayal is a common occurrence in their media, which makes Kanji's inclusion in the game not odd, which I thought it was, Because as I thought, and as was confirmed by my ninja, Japan is historically uber traditional, but that manifests itself in real life, unfortunately. Homosexuality isn't so much shamed as it is shunned. There's no dialogue going around standing up for gay men and women, and the closeted nature of the culture means that those who would like to are too shy to engage. This sheds a lot of light on Kanji's character because, though he isn't technically real, Inaba is Japan. And it's specifically rural Japan. And if it's anything like rural America, well... And again, I acknowledge that Kanji never comes right out and says, I'm gay. But the fact that the notion is even tackled with that much sincerity and that much in-game time tells me all I need to know. But then again, he shows interest in Naoto. Then again, he also did believe Naoto was a guy. It gets all confusing there, so I'm just gonna stop. But it isn't just acceptance of your sexuality, it's acceptance of your family or your personality. Yukiko's of the Amagi clan, a prestigious family in Inaba that runs the local hot spring inn. Her life has been determined for her. She'll take over the family business, and then she'll run it until she can pass it on to her children. This lack of control over her life forced her into a sort of cowardice. She's uncomfortable around people talking about relationships, making sexual innuendos, or guys pursuing a relationship with her. But she doesn't feel uncomfortable because she doesn't want these things. The intro cinematic to her dungeon more than assuages that notion. It's just she's so enveloped in her own world and underdeveloped as a teenager that she never really grew up the same way others had. So it's all repressed, and it's up to you to basically go into her consciousness and beat the sense into her. Now when I say it that way, it sounds really comical, but it's pretty sweet that a large part of this game is about going into your friend's mind and convincing them how great they are. The best part though is that these characters don't dramatically change. You don't meet shitty people and then make them better. And I like that P Studio, the developers behind Persona, avoided making a game like that. Instead, you present your friends with the facts and they realize, well shit, I'm cool. The overarching plot of the game is that you guys form an investigation team to solve the mysterious murders going on around town. But I love the idea that you're also deeply investigating one another. Getting back to Yukiko, once you save her from her castle, you can of course begin her social link, which is the method by which the game tracks your development as friends, potential love interests, and her unfolding arc, her personal arc, which in her case is her family drama. She feels empowered after her experience in the Midnight Channel, where she faced her demons and gained the persona. So she decides that she doesn't want to be a part of her family business. This of course sends her spiraling in a weird, funny way that only anime is capable of, where she experiments with a fuck ton of different career paths while also trying to develop the skills to properly run away from home after graduation and strike out on her own. She failed, but only because by the end she realizes she's a rebel without a cause, like every teenager ever. She actually loves the Amagi Inn, she loves running it, and she's actually quite good at it. She realizes that empowerment doesn't just mean trying to do your own thing, but that power can come from realizing the truth in front of you too. I thought that I wanted to work with computers and make video games for the last 2 years. A part of me likes the idea of those things, but I know that doing this is all I love. By this, of course, I mean late to the game. My parents, knowing full well how much financial security being an engineer grants, and feeling I really wanted it, pushed me on that, and I'm grateful for their support. But the whole time I've been thinking, what the shit, my dudes? Almost everyone in my life knew I enjoyed writing. And if you saw my grades, you knew my math was weak. The only person who apparently picked up on it is my best friend, my brother, and the worst influence in my life, Stefan. And he didn't even say it to my face. Just as a PSA to anyone who's a friend of anyone, if you think something's off, say something. You may just save time, money, and a life. Chie struggles with her lack of feminine traits. She's constantly looked at as another one of the guys for her lack of long hair, her affinity for martial arts, or etc. She's also just not as immediately successful career or school-wise like Yukiko. Her close relationship with Yukiko and the stark contrast between them help form a quiet divide between the two best friends, as they each resent each other for being better at something that the other is horrible at. Naoto is a girl who wants to be a guy, and specifically she wants to be a man. She feels that her age and gender hold her back in her desired career field, and so she attempts to do away with them. But she ultimately learns that though these things may be crippling in your immediate environment, they make up the true you, and being true to yourself is more important than any artificial success. But Persona isn't just about discovering your true self. It's also about being a kid. And part of being a kid is those moments that are indelible milestones of being one. Like your first boy-girl sleepover, and the dude doing the most possible to catch a glimpse of girls in their skimpiest outfits. Or having your first solo beach day and feeling way too happy about being able to see girls in their bikinis. Clearly I was a perv as I'm bringing all this up as a kid, but who wasn't? I was also in a band at school very briefly for a talent show I sang in. I'm no Rosette, but I gave it my all as if I was. And then there's the teacher who's uncomfortably attractive to you, but you know you can't do anything with. And of course, who can forget the first time they indulge in underage drinking with all their best friends? These moments play out almost exactly as I remember them happening in Persona. The familiarity is a little creepy, but it's welcome. Just being a year removed from high school when I played it, I didn't realize how tame and distinctly teenage those moments were, but Persona 4 helped put that into place. It all seems so juvenile, even 2-3 years away, but back then, those were the most important days of my life. They were my rites of passage into the warped pseudo-adulthood that I exist in now, where I'm currently balancing school, a job that's paying my way to San Francisco, failing social life. You get the point. But none of those rights stacked up to this last one. Now we come to my favorite stretch of the game, the summer festival. I distinctly remember celebrating the 4th of July with my friends at our local piers back in 2014. It was the first time I managed to peel away from my family for a holiday, and it was the first time I was celebrating something of this magnitude in my own way. It's still one of the best nights of my life. But the moment that sticks out to me most is the fireworks. And before you say it, I know, duh, but to that I say, give me 1 minute. See, when the fireworks were about to light up the sky just above us, my friend pulled me away from all the others. She wanted to go closer. She wanted to really get the full impact of the whole show. I wondered why we couldn't just enjoy it with our friends, since we had come with them, but I've never been one to enjoy arguing with her, and trust me, you wouldn't either. She wanted me to come, so I went. We may have only been a few feet away from the others, but it felt like we were worlds apart. See, while she stared in awe at the show, I couldn't help but pay attention to her smile, her laugh, the way the lights danced on her face. The view above couldn't hold a candle to what I was seeing right in front of me. This was the moment that solidified what I'd thought for a while. I'm in love with this girl. That night continued to be the best. It was one of the first times I had stood out late. It was dumb fun. We bumped into my favorite teacher out on the town with her friends. We walked past people setting off fireworks in the streets. For once, I felt like I was part of the real world, not just the one that existed on my TV screen. This was the formative experience of my teenage years. After this, I began actually hanging out with people. I actually spoke to people. I made all the time in the world to see her as often as possible in order to replicate the magic of that night. For the first time, I had a life. So you can imagine how excited I got at the prospect of the in-game fireworks festival. It was a time to hang out with buds, and specifically to court Risei. Persona was my life held up to a mirror and played out before my eyes, and that's why I'll always love it. Many of my friends don't look back on high school years with fondness. A lot of them felt oppressed by their families, or our uniform, which is another way me and Persona are incredibly alike. High school didn't turn out to be the scandalous, sexy, party-filled time Degrassi may have painted it to be, but for me, high school was my rebirth. In high school, I became the guy I am now. Persona unwittingly gave me the best years of my life back before I had even known that they were gone. And as I march ever closer to my 20s, which is 38 days away, the gift that Persona gave me will only grow stronger and stronger.